Hello and welcome to DSR Daily. I'm David Rothkopf, joined by Riley Fessler and Minna Stein. And I don't know, what day is it? Thursday? It's kind of getting towards the end of the week, isn't it?
Yeah. I had no
I mean,
idea it was Thursday until this morning.
but until right now when I mentioned it.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we're getting through the week. There was a little good news this week. Let's see if we can stretch it out. But unfortunately, I mean, there's just not that much. It was really dark economic news this morning. I don't even know if it's in time for your stories, but looks like job losses are getting up towards recession levels right now. And so the economy is sinking. There's a big problem in the housing markets where there's like 500,000 more houses on the market or there's 500,000 more houses on the market than there are people in demand for it. So housing prices are falling. And, everybody's worried about the AI bubble. And so that, from an economic perspective, looking ahead to the next year, the only good news in it is that a real bad economy for a year is likely to be very bad for the Republicans, which, I don't have anything against Republicans. It's just people who are trying to dismantle democracy that I have a problem with. And so I don't know. Maybe there's that. There was also, this morning I woke up and there was a thing in the New York Times, a discussion with Russ Dowdett. I don't know if you've seen it. Many, you really should take a look. I think the headline is, "Did Women Ruin the Workplace?" And it's like, say what? I mean, at what point do you cancel your New York Times subscription? That they're running this kind of, they ought to be embarrassed. Anyway, I know usually we do this and you guys tell stories and then I respond, but I just thought I'd mix it up a little bit with the stuff I was starting out with today. So why don't you, lead off with a story there?
It sounds like you started your day off on the right foot,
Yeah, that's probably
reading
not
some
the-
excellent stories, and
Yeah,
we will
really.
continue that now. U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy announced a 10% reduction in flights at 40 major airports due to air traffic control safety concerns amid a record 36-day government shutdown. The move, driven by severe staffing shortages and unpaid federal workers, aims to maintain aviation safety but has left airlines scrambling to adjust schedules and calm worried passengers. The shutdown has disrupted millions of travelers and intensified political pressure on both parties to reach an agreement.
Yeah, I mean, look, Republican Congress, Republican president, Republican shutdown, they keep thinking that they're masterminds and that if they squeeze Americans and hurt them more, it's somehow going to redound to their benefit. It's going to hurt the Democrats. Let's make sure that there's no food in the SNAP program. Let's make sure people go hungry. And Democrats are, and the thing is, people don't. The election showed this. People associate these problems with the people who are in charge, and it's very clear what's going on here, which is the administration has decided they're going to shut down flights in the week before the busiest travel week of the year for Thanksgiving. And they think that people are going to go, oh my God, blame the Democrats. They're not going to blame the Democrats. They're going to blame the people who control the House, control the Senate, control the White House, control the Supreme Court, control everything that they want to control. What is this going to cause a lot of pain and suffering? Yeah, it is. They could easily have fixed it. The reason the Democrats are not going along with the Republicans is they think it is immoral to up the cost of health care in this country and to push a bunch of people off of health care. And they've made it very clear. Don't do that. Give us a reprieve on that. Take care of these people, and we'll go along with a continuing resolution. I think that's, morally, ethically sound, politically sound. And it's time the Republicans woke up, realized their strategy is not working, and turn the page. Riley.
Nancy Pelosi announced she will not seek re-election to the U.S. House, officially concluding her nearly 40-year career representing San Francisco. As the first woman to serve as Speaker, she is regarded as one of the most powerful figures in American political history, architecting landmark legislation like the Affordable Care Act and leading the House to impeach President Trump twice. Her decision follows a generational shift in Congress and personal challenges, including a hip fracture and the lasting impact of the brutal 2022 attack on her husband, Paul. Pelosi, who has fundraised over $1 billion for the Democratic Party, will finish her final term, but her departure leaves open questions about who will fill her vital behind-the-scenes leadership role at the Capitol.
Not just at the Capitol, within the Democratic Party. Nancy Pelosi was the leader of the Democratic Party because Barack Obama stepped down and moved on and became a movie producer, whatever the hell he does, the husband of a podcast host. And Joe Biden doesn't really, he wasn't even really the leader of the party when he was the president of the United States, and there aren't a lot of other leaders. Pelosi stepped up, led from Capitol Hill, was, until Kamala Harris was elected, was the most powerful woman in American political history, or the most senior, and remained exceptionally powerful. And she was also really good at what she did. And not only did she have sort of courage, and she still does. She'll be with us for another year in the Congress, but she was a master. We did a number of events with Nancy Pelosi. Riley, were you here for those? Had you joined for any of the?
I was not here yet. No.
Yeah, and we did a number of events with her, and virtual events, and did some live things. And I just got to say, she was. I mean, this was a side you don't really see, but like we would have 100 people, and she would go and she would say, "Oh, happy birthday! Oh, I know this about you! Oh, blah blah blah," and then people would go, "Well, what about HR 163? The Long Distance Communications Line Act of 19 whatever," and she would know it inside out. I mean, truly, politically. Had all the skills, intellectually had all the capability. Didn't always agree with her on a lot of things. Think she was trapped a little bit by some of her generational views. But boy, did she show courage. And there is no Democrat on the national stage who has ever stood up to Donald Trump as effectively as Nancy Pelosi. And so I hope that the year that she has remaining in her term, she gets the recognition that I think she deserves. Minna?
Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth briefed top lawmakers on President Trump's unauthorized military strikes against alleged drug boats, which critics say violate U.S. and international law. The strikes, conducted across the Caribbean and Pacific since September and resulting in at least 66 deaths, have escalated tensions as the U.S. sends major naval forces towards Venezuela. Bipartisan lawmakers are now pushing a war powers resolution to block Trump's actions, arguing only Congress has the authority to authorize military conflict.
The Trump administration has already said that they don't think they're governed by that in doing what they want to do against Venezuela. They are apparently evaluating multiple options, from going after specific sites in Venezuela to regime change. There are a variety of different camps within the administration pushing for it. One of the things to look for is that part of the naval forces that they have ordered to the region is the USS Gerald Ford, the big aircraft carrier, big modern aircraft carrier, which just sort of crossed out of the Straits of Gibraltar about a day ago. So it means that out of the Med, and so it means it'll probably get there, I don't know, today, tomorrow, the next day. Once it's there, you don't move, carrier battle group to a place like this without taking some kind of action. And Trump will take some kind of action. As far as these hearings go, they're not giving enough information. And of course, these are illegal, extrajudicial killings that we are participating in. There are a lot of options other than blowing these boats up. In fact, if you wanted to prove that they were drug cartels, why wouldn't you just stop the boat, arrest the people on the boat, or take them into custody, or return them to their native country if you didn't have jurisdiction, and take a picture of all the drugs you found on the boat and share that with everybody and say, look, here's all this stuff. It must stop. And, use diplomacy or use a combination of coercive force and diplomacy as opposed to just killing a bunch of people without providing any real evidence that they're doing this. And, let's be clear, none of these boats were capable of actually reaching the United States. They're just part of the illegal drug trade infrastructure in this part of the world. If in fact they were, then that's the assertion. And, going and blowing them up has absolutely zero strategic benefit to the United States. It's just for show. The people I've talked to on the Hill are disgusted with these briefings because they don't provide enough information. One guy I was talking to said, getting a briefing from Hegseth is kind of the opposite of the briefing. It's like a black hole. He doesn't know anything, and it kind of sucks information out of the room. He's like a negative briefing. I got what he meant. I hope you get what he meant. Minute.
The U.S. Supreme Court heard arguments regarding the legality of
You're
President
not
Trump.
minute. You're not minute. I got this completely. Yeah, okay, fine. Not minute.
Heard regarding the legality of President Trump's sweeping tariffs, which lower courts have consistently ruled against. The Trump administration was put on the defensive, notably by Justice Neil Gorsuch, who voiced strong concerns about the administration's expansive view of presidential authority under the 1977 law, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. Gorsuch and Chief Justice John Roberts questioned the interpretation, suggesting it could allow the executive branch to increasingly usurp Congress's core power to regulate commerce and impose taxes. The case marks the first time during Trump's second term that the Supreme Court will directly rule on one of his signature policies through its usual procedures.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because you sort of assume the Supreme Court is going to find a way, and if you listen to the session yesterday, you heard, Alito and Thomas doing their usual thing of trying to find a way to rule in favor of Trump. But Gorsuch was not there. Barrett was not there. The Chief Justice was not there. Certainly the Democrats were not there. It's not impossible to imagine that they come up with 6 or 7 people saying that no, this was, using IEPA, which is the trade act they're using, is not legal. Now, will that stop them from doing crazy tariffs? No. For one thing, and one of the justices made this point yesterday, all they have to do is go up to Congress and say, we would like you to approve these tariffs. And they can, do it under a reconciliation bill, and they'd need 50 votes plus the vice president. Now, they might not be able to, get that in the Senate where there's some pushback on these tariffs. But they might. And then alternatively, there are other trade laws they could try to use. The idea that the president can declare an emergency and completely change the tariff and, by extension, as they pointed out, the tax structure of the United States, and the administration has argued that there's $4 trillion in revenue coming from all this. Well, that's just it's preposterous. My guess, you'll see a little bit of a victory for common sense in the Constitution. But it'll be narrow enough that it'll leave the door open for Trump to continue these kind of bad policies in some other way. Maybe now it's Mina.
Yes, got it. Last story. Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered top officials to prepare plans for possible nuclear testing in response to President Trump's directive for the U.S. to resume such tests for the first time in over 30 years. At a Security Council meeting, senior Russian defense and intelligence leaders urged swift action, warning that delays could hinder Moscow's ability to match Washington's moves. The escalation follows Trump's ambiguous remarks about nuclear testing, which experts say could destabilize global arms control and prompt a dangerous new nuclear arms race.
A, not so ambiguous. He said we're going to do it. B, dumb, as we pointed out, and as we pointed out in our conversation last week with Joe Cirincione and John Wolfstall. The testing of nuclear weapons in this way isn't necessary anymore. Science and technology have moved us past that and enable us to be able to model and test and understand how these technologies, many of which are pretty old technologies, work without doing this kind of testing. So the net gain is not that much. But certainly the idea of an arms race is a bad thing, and certainly giving the Russians or the Chinese or the Iranians perhaps or others motivation to accelerate or expand their programs or to do, saber rattling with their own tests, that's not a good thing for the world. And so Trump's comments, which, as we pointed out before, were likely based on a misinterpretation of Russian tests of nuclear propulsion for certain of their missiles and seagoing drones, it was a big mistake, and it was really dangerous. And I don't think, there's so much stuff happening. How do you focus on what is the hair on fire crisis of today? There are a bunch of them. This is one. This is a serious thing. We live in a more dangerous world today than we did when Trump first said this, because he said something that was so ill-considered. We had a lot of stuff coming your way on the elections and everything else. We've got a Words Matter coming up. We're going to do a Need to Know with our friend E.J. Dionne of the Washington Post, also looking at politics for the year ahead, and all of our other podcasts also. So join us for those. Support what we're doing. Go to the DSRnetwork.com. Click on membership. Couple bucks a month. We'd appreciate the support. I say it every day. You may think, oh, there's no urgency. There's urgency. Help us. We could use the help. We're a little tiny company. And we could use the support, and we're very grateful for it. And, if you're watching on YouTube and if you're not watching on YouTube, go watch it on YouTube. We're all very, very attractive, well-dressed people. Okay. Riley and Minna are very attractive, well-dressed people. But, it's you get more, I think, when you watch it. And so go watch it on YouTube or watch excerpts for it on Instagram. Follow it. Like it. It'll help us. It'll help us grow. So thanks for that. See you soon. Bye-bye.